So there are roughly 15 million vacant homes sitting in America right now, and a shocking chunk of them aren't old, falling apart wrecks. They're brand new. Fresh paint, working plumbing, nobody inside. We found 10 places where developers built entire neighborhoods, paved the streets, put up the mailboxes, and then just waited. The buyers never came. And the wild part? Some of these places are still being marketed as up and coming. We're about to tour every single one of them, and by the end, you'll never look at a cheap listing the same way again. Number 1, Cape Coral. Picture 400 miles of canals, fresh stucco homes, and absolute silence. Cape Coral sold itself as the Venice of Florida, and developers pushed that dream so hard, they never stopped to ask whether anyone actually wanted to live next to a mosquito-filled ditch in 110-degree heat. Some zip codes here run north of 25% vacancy, and a huge chunk of those empty homes aren't 2008 foreclosures. They're new builds that have never had a single piece of furniture inside. The reason is almost embarrassingly simple. Developers built for investors, not families. Streets with 8 identical houses, all bought by people in Ohio or Germany, who ran the rental math wrong before hurricane season tripled every insurance bill in Southwest Florida. Number 2, Lehigh Acres. So, a Chicago businessman named Gerald Gould bought a giant chunk of Florida swampland in the 1950s and started mailing quarter-acre lot listings to people who'd never set foot in Florida, and honestly, most of them never would. He sold around 100,000 lots before anyone thought to ask about roads, water, or schools. Lehigh Acres was platted for 10 million people. 10 million. It currently has about 130,000. That road grid, those street signs, all of it was laid out for a city bigger than New York City, and almost nobody showed up. During the 2000s boom, developers dropped spec homes into tiny pockets of that grid, and when 2008 hit, entire streets just went dark. Some of those streets are still dark. You can drive through today and find cul-de-sacs with 4 or 5 new homes, maybe one occupied, the others still wearing original builder paint with lawns that turn to sand, no grocery store for miles, no sidewalks, no streetlights across huge stretches. And people are still buying lots out there right now based on the idea that growth is coming. Maybe it will. In 200 years. But you're not a 200-year-old institution. You need a Walgreens, and the nearest hospital is 45 minutes away. The roads flood every summer, and your property value depends entirely on 10 million people deciding to move to a Florida swamp. They haven't. They're not going to. Lehigh Acres is basically the original spec home graveyard, the template every bad development since has accidentally copied. But some places didn't even bother with the swamp. Some places tried this in the desert. Number 3, Victorville. Victorville sits 90 miles northeast of LA in the Mojave Desert. And for about 4 years in the mid-2000s, developers were absolutely convinced they'd cracked the code on affordable California housing. The pitch was simple. People who couldn't afford LA would just drive. And they did, for a while. But that commute isn't 90 miles of smooth freeway. It runs through the Cajon Pass, one of the most dangerous mountain stretches in California. And in normal traffic, which is basically always, you're looking at 2.5 hours each way. 5 hours of driving every single day to save money on a mortgage. People did that math very, very wrong. When gas hit $4 a gallon in 2008 and jobs dried up, those commuters didn't slowly trickle out. They left fast, and entire subdivisions dropped from 80% sold to 40% occupied in under a year. Developers had already broken ground on the next phase, so you ended up with streets where the first 10 houses sat empty and the next 20 were still wrapped in Tyvek. New homes are still being built there right now, marketed to people priced out of the Inland Empire, using the exact same pitch from 2005. Anyone who bought in that first wave and sold during the crash lost more than half their home's value on average, and some of those homes are still underwater today. Number 4, California City. California City is technically the third largest city by land area in California. It covers 203 square miles of Mojave Desert and holds about 14,000 people. Let that sink in. Nat Mendelsohn bought this land in 1958, planning to build something that would rival Los Angeles. He graded hundreds of miles of streets, named them, put up signs, and sold tens of thousands of lots through mail campaigns to people who never visited. Parks, a lake, shopping districts. He sold all of it convincingly, sight unseen. The city never came. You can still buy a lot there for under $5,000, and that price has barely moved in 60 years. Number 5, Pahrump. Pahrump, Nevada sits 60 miles west of Las Vegas, and for a stretch in the 2000s, it grew faster than almost anywhere in the country. People priced out of Vegas poured in, developers followed, and suddenly a town mostly known for legal brothels and fireworks sprouted brand new subdivisions everywhere you looked. Then Vegas crashed in 2008, and Pahrump didn't slow down. It collapsed. New subdivisions that were 30% built just stopped. Developers walked away from half-finished streets, and some of those abandoned projects sat in legal limbo for years because nobody could figure out who owned the land after the developer went bankrupt. New homes are selling there right now. The moment Vegas softens, Pahrump softens harder. Number 6, Detroit. Detroit had 1.8 million people in the 1950s. Today, it's down to about 620,000, and all those houses the other million people left behind are still standing, rotting, waiting. But what most people don't know is that Detroit kept building new homes through the 1990s and 2000s, dropping brand new subsidized complexes into neighborhoods that were already half empty. Some of those buildings sat vacant from the day they opened. Right now, Detroit has around 25,000 vacant structures, and the city demolishes a few thousand a year, so the backlog never actually clears. Midtown and Corktown are genuinely coming back, but that's maybe 10% of the city. The jobs that would fill the other 90% never returned. Number 7, Gary, Indiana. Gary had 178,000 people in 1960. Today, it's down to about 69,000, and that number keeps sliding because once U.S. Steel collapsed, there wasn't a single other reason for the city to exist at the scale it was built for. And yet, people keep trying to build new things there. Federal grants, private developers betting on a comeback, scattered new housing dropped into neighborhoods where 30 to 40% of the existing homes already sit empty. Some of those brand new buildings are already abandoned. You can buy a house in Gary for $10,000, and that price isn't a deal. It's the market telling you exactly what it thinks, and it's been right for 60 years straight. Number 8, Baltimore. Baltimore has 15,000 vacant housing units right now, and unlike Gary or Detroit, this isn't a broke city. Billions in federal money flow through here. Johns Hopkins alone is basically a small economy, and the port runs year-round. So why are brand new row houses sitting empty? Developers collect tax credits to build affordable housing in struggling neighborhoods, finish the building, and then watch it turn over constantly because the block around it has no grocery store, no safety, nothing. Some new construction sits empty because the basement floods every spring or the soil tests positive for lead. You can buy a brand new row house in Baltimore for $150,000, and DC is 40 miles away. Number 9, Rio Rancho. Rio Rancho is the third largest city in New Mexico, and a company called AmRep Corporation built it the same way Lehigh Acres got built, mailing lot listings to people across the country who never visited, banking on cheap Southwest land selling itself. That was the 1960s. The growth model never changed. Intel anchored the local economy for years, but Intel scaled back, and now most residents just commute into Albuquerque for work, which means the city empties out every morning like clockwork. Developers kept building houses through the 2000s and 2000s anyway, and those new subdivisions sit surrounded by empty strip mall pads and unfinished roads, because no daytime population means no customers, and no customers means no stores. Number 10, Palm Bay. Palm Bay has 120,000 actual residents, but the street grid was drawn for 1 million, so the city always feels like it forgot to finish loading. Developers have been dropping spec homes into that grid for decades, and the result is genuinely strange. Brand new construction sitting next to empty lots sitting next to 1980s houses, all connected by roads the city can't fully afford to maintain. Some of those roads serve houses that cost $250,000 on paper, but run closer to $350,000 once you add flood insurance because a lot of that available land sits low and wet. After 60 years, every new house built there is still a bet that the city will finally fill in. That bet keeps losing.